Welcome back, everybody. Here to talk about Ukraine, latest updates. I am John Aravosis, reporting in from Washington, D.C. Let me just make sure my TikTok is racing along here. Come on, TikTok. Don't screw me tonight. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, there it is. Okay. TikTok had me scared. It's working. It's working. Oh, there's my volume. Anyway, how's everybody doing today? Music. I don't think I had music. Oh, you're saying hi to music. Somebody named music. Yes. Anyway, so yeah, how's folks doing? I am good. Hello, Serbia. Good to see you. Привет. Привет to you, Nick, in Oregon. However you say hello in Oregon. Oh my. So yeah, what's going on? So tomorrow's hearing, we were going to do a watch party for the January 6th hearing that's happening tomorrow, but it's not happening tomorrow because we are looking at a major hurricane barreling down on Florida. So it's expected to be a Category 3 at least when it hits Florida, possibly tomorrow afternoon, possibly tomorrow evening. The biggest hurricane in, I don't know, something like 100 years to hit that part of Florida. So anyway, it's a big deal. So I kind of thought the hearing was going to be canceled, and it was canceled because our media is going to be covering it full time. Normally CNN would cover it, and CNN and everybody are going to be covering the hurricane. So anyway, so that's what's up with that. So we will not be watching that tomorrow, but otherwise, when it's rescheduled, I'm going to guess it's probably rescheduled for next week. Probably not for later this week. It's possible, but I think it'll be next week. So when they do that, we can all join in and watch. Other than that, I will do quick little housekeeping while we're waiting for you guys, for more folks to join. Thank you for the origami on TikTok. Discord auction. Our auction ended for the 3. I don't think I've got them. I had them here, but I think I deleted them. I did have them here for the 3 patches, the 3 Ukrainian military patches. That auction has ended. And was it Lily? Yes, Lily won. Congratulations, Lily. Thank you for the heart on TikTok. So her patches have just been sent out to her today. And that other auction we still have going. Remember, we have an auction for this very cool Ukrainian beret patch. It goes on a military Navy beret. It's metal. The back, because people wanted to see before, it's kind of got the 2 hooks to go through, and it's got a little almost like a hairpin. Anyway, it's very cool. I like it because it's the trident of Ukraine, but it's also the anchor. So anyway, very cool. So that one's going well. It's up for another couple days. You can bid on the auction by becoming a member of our Discord over at aravosis.discord. Discord.aravosis.com. Yep, we're talking about the asteroid in a second. Don't you worry, Elise. But yeah, so go over to the Discord, and our latest paid members on the Discord, I wanted to thank really quick. Jenny, thank you for becoming a paid member. And Deanna, thank you for upping your subscription. I saw that. That was very nice of you last night. That was a pleasant little email to get. Seeing you did that. That was very generous of you. And that's just to remind you guys, I do this for free, but I certainly welcome your support because I am trying to do this full time by doing my videos all day long on this, the fundraising, the stuff in the evening. And in order to do that, I need your support. I've got to be able to pay my bills. And currently it's eating into my savings and I can't keep doing this. So please, if you can help out, I've got the how you can helps on the screen. But bottom line is, if you're on the Discord with us and you can become a paid member, please become a paid member. That would be my first ask right there. Anything you can give is great, but it helps because eventually if that became enough that it was a steady amount, that would make my life a lot easier. But also you can go to, what is it? You know what I did? I set up the list of all my links. It now is aravosis.com, my last name. Aravosis.com will take you to all my links, and you can find my Cash App, my Venmo, my PayPal, so you can make a donation directly to me there. You'll find the links for the Discord, the links for my store, which has a lot of Ukrainian products. Any of the Ukrainian stuff, 50% goes to Ukraine. Of those proceeds, the rest goes to support me. I'm going to actually put some new ones up. I think in the next couple of days, I've got to put some new ones there. So there's lots of different ways you can help. But please do if you can. I'd very much appreciate it. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let me go back to my list of headlines for the day. I was going to say for the topics, the final thing is questions and stuff. Okay. For submitting questions on TikTok, use the Q&A function that is in my profile on TikTok. So you go to my profile, look for the Q&A, hit the button. That's where you leave questions. Much easier than leaving them on the screen, because on the screen they scroll by. On YouTube and the rest of you, you can submit questions, obviously, in the comment box at the bottom. But until we get to the Q&A period, there's always a chance I may see them. I may not. But obviously, the super chat function on TikTok is, on YouTube, I very much like, because that's also a nice way to make a donation to me. But at the same time, I promise always to answer the super chat questions, even though I can't answer every question. Those I will answer. Oh, and then finally on TikTok, another way you can help me out is by those gifts. We love the TikTok gifts. Don't do the glasses and the hats, because those don't work when I'm using this cool format that we've got the stuff in the corners and all of that. The hats and the glasses don't work. So anything that doesn't go on my head, it works great. So thank you for the TikTok gifts. Let me say, yesterday, you guys probably heard, in case you didn't see, I grabbed the video. NASA intercepted an asteroid yesterday. Now, this was not an asteroid that was going to hit Earth. I think they made sure of that. But they wanted to see, I thought they actually had launched a spacecraft to hit it. Other people were telling me it looks like they used a satellite and redirected it to size of a refrigerator, I'm told, to impact an American refrigerator. I know in Europe, your refrigerators look totally different than our refrigerators are like Texas sized here in America. But they used a satellite to ram into the asteroid. And yesterday's test was simply to see two things. One, could we even hit the asteroid? And NASA did, which was great. The second thing they want to figure out is, if they hit the asteroid, can the impact redirect, change the orbit, or not even the orbit, in this case, the path of the asteroid. And that's going to take them a couple of weeks, they said, to churn through all the data and readings and take readings and, track the satellite to see, did it change direction at all? So that's the big thing. Let me show you really quick two things. The first one is an animated GIF that I think works if I put it up. This is a compilation of photos that's showing the asteroid, and then the poof is when it gets hit by the satellite. So watch that real quick. It should start again. Yes. Oop. I'll start it again one more time. So then poof is when it gets hit. Kind of cool. The other one is neat. It's about a minute and a half, and it shows NASA headquarters. I think NASA headquarters. It could be JPL as well. But as they were waiting to see if it would hit, and it was descending and descending and descending to the asteroid, and watching them live, and also watching pictures from the satellite, taking pictures, I guess, of the asteroid as it's getting closer and closer. It's pretty cool. I'll show you this really quick.
Starting to see those individual boulders there. We can see shadows of the various rocks on the surface.
It's amazing, guys. Oh my goodness, look at that. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Looks to me like we're headed straight in.
Yeah, the asteroid was the size of a pyramid. I forgot about that.
Oh my gosh. Woo. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. 8,
yeah.
7, 6,
wow.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
Awaiting visual confirmation.
All right. Let's see. We got it? Waiting.
And we have impact. A triumph for humanity in the name of planetary defense.
Woo. Fantastic.
One thing I just noticed this time watching it, you see on the side of the camera, it says impact, and it lets you know it impacted, but you still see the pictures advancing towards the asteroid. That's because of the time delay. Impact is because they know the math and the trajectory. So they know it impacted, but it takes, a second or two, depending where the asteroid is, for its signal to travel. I'm assuming the speed of light, the signal travels, or less than the speed of light, at least, so that it takes a second or two for it to hit us. And that's why it said impact, and they said it's impacted, but then we saw the video like just catching up. Anyway, very cool stuff. Other news, Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader, made an appearance today. It's the first time since those rumors about a possible coup in China had appeared. Nobody in the mainstream media really reported on those rumors, which makes all of us think that there wasn't really anything backing it up. But nonetheless, one person who shared the story, the fact that the Chinese leader had appeared today, said, it doesn't really prove anything either way, because he could have appeared in a video that was pre-recorded. I mean, honestly, if they were going to have a coup and not tell anybody. But again, not a lot suggesting the coup. I mentioned the hurricane to you already. Let's talk about the Nord Stream pipelines. So this was a really weird story from this morning of both Nord Stream pipelines. And these are two Russian pipelines bringing natural gas to Europe. Both of them appear to have been sabotaged this morning. I think it was the Swedes who recorded an underwater explosion happening. Both pipelines are inoperative, are not operating at the moment. Nord Stream 2 is the ones that the Germans, to their credit, said that they were not going to give the final certification to because of the invasion of Ukraine, right? So Nord Stream 2 hadn't started working yet. Nord Stream 1 is the one that was bringing in gas, and the Russians kept playing games back and forth. Remember, the Russians started cutting it back 60%, 40% capacity. Then they shut it off entirely because of routine maintenance. But then when the routine maintenance was done, they only let 20% back, and all of this, right? And now I think it's off entirely right now. I think. I know it's off right now entirely. Yeah. So both pipelines were not sending any natural gas, but they had natural gas in them. So now you've got natural gas leak, concerns about the environment, and it really looks like it's sabotage. And the question is, who could it be? Who could it be? It's hard to believe it would be anybody in the West who would do it. Ukraine probably doesn't have the capacity to do it, but also, Ukraine does it. Okay, the theory would go, Ukraine does it because they want to make sure that the Russians don't make any money from natural gas. The only problem is the Russians weren't making any money anyway because the pipelines were shut down, both of them, right? So, and if Ukraine gets caught doing this, they lose all the support they ever had from Europe. So kiss all the weapons goodbye, right? So, and the sanctions. Ukraine has no regret. Russia's the obvious player just because they're nefarious. The problem is, even Russia doesn't quite make sense, because Russia, the pipeline was already shut down. So what does Russia gain by blowing it up? And they've said the damage looks like it's severe. They don't know how long it's going to take. The experts to repair this thing. But wouldn't Russia want, I'm Russia, you're Russia, right? We're evil. And we want to punish the West and play games with them and make the West finally cave and no longer help Ukraine. So we cut off the gas, natural gas to Europe, but we want to dangle the possibility of getting that gas back, right? So why we would want our pipeline to function so that we could say, hey, Germany, you're all cold, eating your Wiener Schnitzel in the winter. Well, actually, that would be Austria. Sorry, eating your bratwurst, whatever, in the in the middle of winter. Aren't you cold? Wouldn't you like your little natural gas? Well, they can't dangle the natural gas if their pipeline's blown up, right? It just restricts Russia's options. Now, somebody had said to me earlier today, and I'll bring up. Let me see what Maddie was saying here. Somebody said to me earlier today, "What about China?" Now, let me see here. My guess is someone who wanted to overthrow Putin could be a gas guy. So Putin took away the incentive to kill him. Let me read that again and think about that. My guess is someone who wanted to overthrow Putin could be a gas guy. So there was a gas guy who wanted to overthrow Putin. So Putin took away the incentive to kill him. I'm not sure I get it, Maddie. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody else, I'm not sure I get the logic on that one. China was interesting. Because if you're China, potentially you just want to sow mayhem and you want the US and Russia to be cleaved. You want Russia and Europe to be cleaved, to have the relationships be worse and worse and worse, because you want your enemies or your strategic adversaries, whatever you want to call them, to all be at each other's throats and not, having better relations. I just don't get it. I really don't. I mean, Mario's saying U.S. is an obvious player too. I don't think so. First of all, Biden would never do it. Biden, forget it. Even if I wanted Biden to do it, he wouldn't do it. But also, I don't get what the U.S. gets out of it. I mean, because again, Russia's not using the pipeline. So what do we get out of blowing up a pipeline that they're not even using? And if our European allies find out, they would be livid with us, for blowing up the pipeline. So now Europe for sure can't get any gas. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me see if anybody's saying anything else interesting. They might want to get sanctions eased to get the repairs done. Maybe, but it's amazing that no nation has come out to blame somebody or to deny blame. I think Russia did it, but are going to blame someone else to create support in Russia. It's a weird story. It is a weird story. I don't get it. Ukrainians, the problem is it's too high risk. Well, okay. But again, the gas isn't going through anyway, right? So what's the point of Ukraine wanting to do it? The gas isn't going through. So Russia's not making money anyway. It's just, anyway, it's very weird. It's very weird. Oligarch who owns the pipeline and wants it running could be losing money. Putin keeps killing his energy oligarchs. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, very weird. Very weird. This was an interesting coincidence. Actually, Annette raises a good point. Right. Today, a new gas line from Norway to Poland opened up. And apparently, I think it goes nearby in the sea, like nearby this pipeline. Little weird coincidence happening on that one. It's any case. I find the whole thing very strange. So anyway, to continue, the sham election. So Russia is continuing its sham election in Ukraine. As you know, let me pull up the provinces just to show you really quick, the oblasts in Ukraine. Sorry, Annette, I'm going to pull your question out of the way. So Crimea, which is the province in the furthest south in Ukraine, is a territory that Russia stole in 2014. Okay. Still belongs to Ukraine, but Russia stole it. The Russians occupy, I would say, most of Kherson, part of Zaporizhia, half of Donetsk, and most of Luhansk. Okay. They hold elections in all 4 of those territories in the last 5 days. The elections finished today. The Russians are expected to declare possibly on Friday. Putin's doing a speech, and he will declare possibly on Friday that he's hang on, trying to get rid of this. That he is annexing those 4 regions. That those 4 regions will become part of Russia. Now, the Russians earlier today let go some preliminary data showing, and earlier was the best today, was in the territories. In one territory, 97% of people voted, yes, let's join Russia. And in the other 3, it was 98%. And I loved what somebody said on Twitter. And somebody on Twitter goes, so it's 97, 98, 98, 98, because 99 would have made it look fake. But 97 and 98 makes it look like a totally real election. Associated Press has since come out with a story, and Rebecca, that was sweet of you. I just saw that. Thank you. My phone went off, and I was like, why is my phone going off? Rebecca just gave me a contribution. Thank you, Rebecca. That was sweet of you. What was I saying with this? Oh, yeah, the election. So earlier today, they were claiming 97, 98%. Then later today, AP came out with a story saying it was like 89%, 93%, 94%. So it's almost like the Russians kind of got the news that it was just far too ridiculous to claim 80, 89 or 98%. So they went with like 93. In any case, it's total BS. It's obviously BS. They're going to use it to justify Daniel, I'll get to yours in a sec. They're going to use it to justify the annexation, of course, which basically means annexation just means Russia says magically those 4 territories now are part of Russia. And that's it. Now, Russia, of course, will give its typical BS and say, therefore, if you attack those territories, you're attacking Russia. And, dun, 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 that means nuclear weapons. asteroids, right? You know, that implied threat. Doesn't matter. U.S. even came out today, which is great. Secretary Blinken, our Secretary of State, came out today and said Ukraine is totally in its rights to keep attacking any of its territory that's been taken by Russia, and it's fine to use U.S. weapons to do it. Now, anyway, yeah, so that's good. That's good. The quote that came from Blinken as well, there was a little bit of a question of whether he meant Crimea too, but the way I read the quote, let me see, I think I've got it here. The way I read the quote made me think, yeah, I've also been equally clear that Ukraine has the absolute right to defend itself throughout its territory, including to take back the territory that has been illegally seized in one way or another by Russia. In one way or another means Crimea, because otherwise you'd say the territory illegally seized by Russia, and then people would go, oh, did you mean everything? Did you mean seized since February 24th? Did you mean Crimea that was seized 8 years ago? Right? It becomes confusing. But when you say one way or another, well, first of all, there's only one way since February 24th, since the invasion. It's not like there's multiple ways Russia seized Ukrainian territory. They only seized it one way, right? So that, I think, is Blinken's way of not wanting to say Crimea, God knows why, but make clear Crimea is included, which is great. I know I was going to show you. This was fabulous. So Russians put out a couple of videos and other things. I don't think I actually have a TikTok video that I have of this. Hold on. I'm going to see. I'm actually going to maybe send my TikTok video. I am going to do this actually. I'm going to send my TikTok video to myself over with you guys because I want to show you. It's hilarious. There are some photos, but I can't, I don't have the photos handy to show you. You know what? I'm going to bring up the photos. This is be easier on my phone. Hold on. I'm going to show you the photos. So the Russians put out a bunch of photos that are, ooh, look at that. Showing these, these people looking at ballots. And then there's one in particular I love. Where this one I love. We've got, the man pointing to a ballot, the woman on his left looking, the woman behind almost holding up a ballot to the light. Well, somebody else went through, actually it was Trucha News, a Ukrainian publication, went through and looked more carefully. And if you look really close, they circled it. Look at the squares on the page. The squares on the page are where you pick, a yay or nay, yes or no. There's no votes. Hold on. There's 3 different pictures they put out. Look at these. There's no votes. I've got another one here. This was another picture. I'll get close enough. Yeah, that's close enough. You can see. Look at that. There's no votes. The Russians are showing ballots being counted that have no votes on them. Right. So this is my other favorite. The Russians put this out. And again, it's to show how fair and legal the process is. And they show, and Daniel, I'll get to yours next. And they show this lady counting the votes, and she's going through. And I thought she was saying da, meaning yes, but she's actually apparently saying za, which is for, meaning for or against joining Russia. And I want you to watch this and just keep an eye on how many votes are for Russia that this lady's counting. Okay, watch this.
За. Yes. 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 Комиссия, еще просматривайте, что две подписи и печать, что это действительный бюллетень.
The bulletin is correct if there is a sign and a signature.
За.
Yes.
За.
Yes.
За.
Yes.
За.
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 Yes.
Yes.
За.
Yes.
За.
Yes.
За.
Yes.
За.
Yes. Yes.
Is that unbelievable? It's 100% yes. 100. It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle, folks. Or maybe a September miracle. Oh, these people crack me up. Two little things. So some of the experts had mentioned that by annexing these additional territories, Russia is actually watering down its claim to Crimea, because up until now, Russia was able to say, well, you can try to take back the land that we took in Ukraine, but Crimea is different. That's been annexed. And boy, oh boy, if you take that, Ukraine, it's right. Even we've said, well, for sure, Ukraine can try to take back all of its land. Will Ukraine be able to take Crimea? Will the U.S. kind of freak out? Will the U.S. and Europe freak out a little bit if Ukraine then tries to take Crimea, with Russia being there? Well, now that Russia is also in these other provinces, it just makes Crimea one of 5 different regions that Russia stole. So it's no longer, Crimea is different. Crimea is not different at all. Anyway, it just might make it easier. Final point is UK defense intelligence. The defense intelligence from the United Kingdom is saying that it is possible that the annexation is going to be used by Putin to try to justify the war. That Putin's going to try to claim, hey, look, see, we did get something out of this. We got these new lands, right? Problem is, of course, Ukraine will probably continue to whittle away at those new lands. And it's going to and I would argue it looks even worse for Russia if they whittle away at those lands, because now you're whittling away at Russia. So from Russia's perspective, from what you've told your people, not only did Ukraine take back the territory that was Ukraine's taking Russian territory. Right? I mean, it just looks worse. It puts Putin in more of a box, basically. All right, let me see what Daniel wrote, and then I'll continue talking about the mobilization. I made up that word. Regarding the pipeline, Russia could be signaling a threat to all. Oh, this is true, Daniel. Actually, yes, I should have said that. Russia could be signaling a threat to all pipeline infrastructures all over Europe, communications and energy. Also, I was going to say communications, internet as well. There's a big internet cable connecting the U.S. with Europe. They can do it is the fact that they can do it is the point of doing it. They're showing their ability to do it. Russia likes to starve and freeze their enemies. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Others were saying actually, now I didn't make this connection until you just said this. That could be why Russia did it today. Norway starts its new pipeline to Poland. And miraculously, the same moment that Norway starts its new pipeline that's going underwater near those pipelines get hit by somebody who clearly knows what they're doing in taking out pipelines. It's sending the message to Norway and Poland, for starters, like, oh, look at that shiny new pipeline you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it, right? No, you're right, Daniel. I still think it's really weird, because there's an aspect of Russia blowing up its own pipeline that's a bit bizarre. The old cutting off your nose to spite your face expression. It's just a little, at least we have that here in the States. It's still a weird thing to do, but I'm with you. That may be it. What makes sense. Yeah, no, very much so. All righty, catching up here. So mobilization. This is all about the draft that Russia's having. As you know, Putin announced this partial draft. It was supposed to only be of reservists, who are people in the military reserves, meaning people who previously served and have stayed in the reserves. It went beyond that. Men who were older than draft age were getting drafted. Men who were infirm and ill, who would never have been qualified to be drafted, were drafted. Students who were exempt. Students are all exempt. They were drafted. They dragged them out of class and drafted them. So there was a lot of, and then men who didn't serve in the military were drafted when it was only going to be men who served in the military, right? So a lot of problems with that. As a result, Russian men have been fleeing. More stories today, several I'll mention. Max Sidon, who's with the Financial Times, tweeted today that he was on a plane flying out of Moscow, and the ratio of men to women on the plane is 9-1, 9 men to every 1 woman. He wrote, most of the men look antsy, but a few seem genuinely thrilled to have made it over the border. You can see this guy's like just drinking away going, yes. Russia has set up military checkpoints on the border with Georgia to cross-check names with its mobilization list, it is reportedly handing out mobilization orders, like draft orders, but there hasn't been anything saying whether they're actually dragging the men back or whether they're giving the order and saying, okay, but if you go, you're breaking the law. So not clear. Maybe these guys can still get out. Kazakhstan said that 98,000 Russians have entered their country fleeing the mobilization. The Kazakhs, apparently, I did not know that the Kazakhs were such an entrepreneurial people. But the Kazakhs on their side of the border, and I'm not sure, I don't know if it's, maybe it's passport control. I don't know what it is, but it's on the Kazakh side of the border, not the Russian side. And the Kazakhs have lined up with their own cars, like at least you and a buddy. So imagine, you're here and your buddy's car is right in front of you and there's a bunch of Russians behind you and a bunch of Russians in front of you, right? So they got Kazakh car 1, Kazakh car 2 right in front of each other. The Kazakhs are charging the Russians behind them in line $500 a car to cut. So if you pay them $500, they take their cars, or they're like this, right? They take their cars and they go like this and let you cut in. And they're just charging more and more people because they can do it infinitely. They just keep, then it's the Kazakhs and the 3 Russians they let in and they pull back and another guy comes in. One guy interviewed by, I forget what reporter was saying this. One guy had been there for 2 days, one Kazakh, and he goes, that's why I've been here 2 days. It's like, I'm not leaving. It is pretty freaking brilliant. You've got to give them credit. It's a little evil. That's not evil though, I guess. It's a little evil. You're helping people cut the line, but nonetheless, really freaking funny. The number of Russians crossing into the European Union is up by 30%. Russians are reportedly selling their cars as well while stuck in some of the massive multi-day lines, because literally some of these lines are several days long, and some of the Russians just gave up and just said, oh well, we're not even gonna deal with this. Now, hang on a second. I want to get rid of Za lady. I've got 2 things here. Let me see. Oh, that was that one. I had something of the border, but it doesn't really matter. Hang on. Let me just see what I've got here. See what I've got. That's that one lady. I want to see let me see what this video is. Was this the, yeah.
После новости о том, что
I
открыли
forget what border this is, but this is all the
оформление
lines
для
trying to get out of
пешего типа граждан, так скажем, паспортный контроль можно проходить пешком, без автомобиля, без велосипеда, без какого-то транспортного средства. Резко
The Russian media
образовалась
was making fun of us
в
tonight.
течение 5 минут колоссальная пробка уже из людей. По той стороне выезжают автотранспортные средства, в том числе грузовые. Сарафанное радио работает очень быстро, и люди бегут занимать очередь для того, чтобы пройти границу без автомобиля, без велосипеда, без самоката. Тем самым осложняют выезд автомобилей, которые из Грузии заезжают в Россию. В обе стороны просто колоссальная пробка. Нейтральная зона стоит уже больше 9 часов. Машины двигаются со скоростью 1 метр.
Take it off. But you know what I mean? Now, by the way, you guys can hear me when I'm talking in the videos live. You can't hear me. I was wondering about that. Okay, you can't hear me when I'm talking over the video. All right, I was saying that one of the Russian news guys, that show at night that's always declaring war, that's always declaring they're going to nuke us, that Russian TV show, he put up the video and put up the Benny Hill music to try to make fun of it and to say, oh, look how funny, look how silly they all look. I think he's nuts. I think it looks like there's panic of Russians fleeing their country. And that, I don't know. I just think it kind of feeds a little bit of a sense of other people going, oh my God, you know what I mean? That there's growing concern. I don't know. I don't think it feeds a sense of, what's the famous British thing, whatever, sit down and whatever the expression is. I don't even remember the thing that's on the tea mugs, whatever it is. But the sort of sit down and relax comment, I don't think it makes it look like we're sort of relaxing and everything's going well. The Russian media. Oh yeah, Russian media is trying to blame local officials for violating the rules about drafting people. The Institute for the Study of War is saying that it's happening. In other words, remember, they draft people who are too old, who are infirm, who are students, who aren't supposed to be drafted at all, and who are not former military, who again aren't supposed to be drafted. And Institute for the Study of War says that so many people are getting drafted under these circumstances that it's not local officials who are the ones they're trying to blame on the national TV shows in Russia. They're saying, literally last night, it was a long clip, so I didn't grab it for you guys, but literally they're saying, oh, Mr. Putin, he's not to blame. He told those local officials we weren't going to draft all of you, but all those corrupt local officials, they just don't know what they're doing. Keep calm and keep on drafting. They just don't know what they're doing. And ISW said that first of all, it's a lie because it's happening widespread across the country. So it's clearly not just local officials coming up with this idea. Moscow probably told them, just get whoever the hell you can. You got a quota, fill it. Second of all, we're to step in and say, okay, follow the damn rules that I put out, even though I lied. It would make it very hard to fill the quota, because then they could only pick certain people and they've got to get those people. And what if they flee and all of that? Let me see, there was another point I was going to say with that too. It's going to be hard to fill the quotas. Oh yeah. Blaming local officials only increases the ire and the anger against local officials. So now you've got the draftees being mobilized and their families saying, those damn local officials, they're the reason I got picked. Moscow would have never picked me. Well, you've got people blowing up these local, with firebombing these local officials. Yesterday in Siberia, came in and shot one of them, one of the guys at the draft place. You've got the women down in Dagestan, right? I mean, those women are amazing, who have been sort of, yelling down the officials. But anyway, it only puts the local officials possibly in more danger. What do we got here? Russian police continue to suppress protests, including in Yakutsk. They detained several hundred women. Russian police fired warning shots at anti-mobilization protesters in Endire, a village of approximately 7,900 people in Dagestan. The Russians have set Russian military enlistment centers on fire in 4 different republics. A detained student also attempted to set on fire a building that had a military registration and enlistment office sign in St. Petersburg, even though the building itself was not a military enlistment office. And some mobilized men have harmed themselves to protect the mobilization, with one Russian man setting himself on fire in Ryazan Oblast. I also saw another video, which there was no way I was going to show on TikTok or here, because both services would have probably killed me. But a Russian guy on the stairs, and it was kind of interesting. Because I was thinking, I was like, oh, he must have found this online. He's on the bottom of the stairs, but sideways. So he's laying on the floor, but not on his back, not on his stomach, on his side. But he's on the floor at the bottom of the stairs and lifting his one leg. Here are my 2 legs. Lifting the one leg and putting his foot up like 1 or 2 stairs up. And then the friend jumps off the stairs onto his thigh. So his thigh just bends and breaks. He videoed it. And I mean, the friend is screaming. The other friend's laughing, of course. But it was so vile, I couldn't show you. But it was interesting to see, though, because it was like, wow. Yeah, that's the same video. Exactly, Alec. Yeah. I mean, but very, this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Hold on a second. I want to see. Oh, I was going to show you one more video. Yes, here's another video. This is I think it's the last video I've got for you, but I've done a couple more little things about drones. So this was very interesting. This is a video of a Russian officer, military officer, talking to the new recruits this week and telling them that basically, we're not giving you anything. I'm going to get rid of, hold on, I'm going to get this so you can make sure you can see. There we go. Make sure you can see the subtitles. We're not giving you anything. You got to get it yourself. And she's walking them through all the stuff they've got to get themselves. So watch this. Hold on, there we go.
Возле костра сразу им пизда будет. Так, потом что? Спальники. Однозначно будете спать, где придется. Спальники однозначно. Плюс туристические коврики или замена. Ну поняли, да, все? Это все свое, мальчишки. Вам форму, все, что армия. Вам броню, вот это все, что касаемо военного. Этого ничего нет. Наших мужиков мы сами все укомплектовали. По медицине тоже. От срачки, то есть лапирамиды, перекись водорода обязательно. Жгуты. У меня на вас на всех жгутов не хватит. Мы мужиков...
Нету жгутов, собирал.
А?
Нету в аптеках жгутов, и все, нету.
Родственники пусть. Аптечки, блядь, с этих, как его, автомобильные. Автомобильные аптечки потрошите, берите оттуда жгуты. Так, мужики, только не ржать. Жен, девушек, матерей просите, прокладки.
Сапоги?
Самые дешевые прокладки, плюс самые дешевые тампоны. Тампоны знаете для чего?
Нет. Кровь останавливает. Откуда?
Пулевое ранение, прям туда вводите и все. Он начинает разбухать и придавливать стенки. Мужики, я это еще с Чечни знаю. Прокладки обязательно, ну дешевенькие. Понятно? Вам туда все сгодится, сейчас сырая погода. У меня там мои друзья, мои товарищи. То есть вот эту всю информацию нам скидывают это. По возможности, ребята, то-то, это, медицина. Мужики, сами о себе позаботьтесь, пожалуйста.
Now, the tampon thing, in all fairness, I am told is something that actually, our soldiers will do too. Like it's a really good hack. If you're in trouble and you need to stop the bleeding. So fair enough. But basically, and actually it backs up what we heard too. Because remember, I've talked about this before. We had heard that, is my sun finally down? The sun is down. I'm going to go open my curtains because the sun is down and I like the view better and you'll like the view better when you can see my balcony with my plants. One moment. Much better. Oh, that's much better. I like that view better. So in any case, yeah. So that one advice, but the other stuff, the other guy had said, that's what I was going to tell you. The other guy had said, I think it was the guy who wrote like the book that he released or whatever it was, and had said that at the beginning of the war, they had nothing. I mean, they didn't have sleeping bags. They had nowhere to sleep. They didn't have food. They didn't have water. I mean, they literally had nothing, according to this guy. So, any case, so let me tell you really quick about drones and then I'll stop because we're cutting into question period here. There has been concern about about Iranian drones, excuse me. I've been reading the last few days. The Ukrainians are saying they still haven't quite figured out how to knock them down well enough, and they're concerned. Oops, get this shirt out of the way. The Russian troops used drones over 50 times within the last 24 hours, according to the general staff of the Ukrainian military. Including Iranian drones. This was very interesting. So from Institute for the Study of War, that think tank I really like, they said that there are unconfirmed reports suggest Ukrainian forces may have destroyed a Russian drone control and training center that directed drone attacks against Ukraine, possibly killing Iranian trainers. Ukrainian journalist Andrei Tsapienko claimed that Ukrainian forces avenged Russian drone attacks on Odessa by striking the Russian facility in Chulakivka in Kherson on September 26th, and claimed that the Ukrainian strikes killed 24 Russians and 24 Iranian trainers, teaching Russian forces how to use Iranian-made drones like the Shahed 136. We don't know if it's true. If it is true, that's pretty freaking wild. I mean, the fact that they were able to get the Iranians. Now, I will also say, that's the kind of intelligence I could see us giving them, because it's a twofer hitting the Iranians as well. But it's also entirely possible the Ukrainians, figured it out on their own. Either way, yeah, let's hope it's true, but who knows? All right, we'll jump into the questions. So I'm adjusting the lights as I talk to you now that the sun is setting more. Good enough. Oh, so on TikTok, as I've said, you can submit the question via the Q&A. And on YouTube, you can and everybody else submit them here. Let me jump. I will try looking for a Q&A question since we already had some of the. How many drones is that compared to previous days? Don't know. Although they've not been. Let me look at this again. Doesn't say. I mean, there certainly is. I know. All I know is there's been concern because it's been growing, and they've been saying they're not sure that they know how to knock them down yet. NBC was just talking about the sham votes. Oh, I'm sure. All right, let me look really quick at my TikTok, and also for you guys too. If you put questions up earlier, I didn't see. Feel free to put them up again, because if I scroll, if they've scrolled by now, I probably won't see them. Whereas TikTokers, I've got your questions right here. Can Russian conscripts fight in foreign lands? That is something I don't know. And because I keep hearing about that, this whole weird issue of okay, conscripts. Let me rephrase this. It's not conscription, it's mobilization. And I think somebody help me out here, but I think this is the distinction being made. They're calling up reservists. They're mobilizing reserve. Now, mind you, they're not mobilizing reservists. It's a conscription, but they claim they're mobilizing reservists, and they can do that, I guess, and send them to a foreign land. They can't have conscription and send it to a foreign land without declaring a war, I believe. Am I right on this? So that's the distinction they're making, and that's what you're getting at in your question about conscripts going to a foreign land. There's been talk about that, but I think, help me out here, but now here's a question. Oh, that's interesting. News.jpg is saying legally no, but that's why the referendum's being held. Bingo. If you have the referendum and you make all those parts of Ukraine actually Russia, now they're not going to a foreign land. They're going to Russia, right? They're going to Kherson, Russia, Zaporizhia, Russia, Luhansk, Russia, and Donetsk, Russia. So it's all internal. Yeah, that's brilliant, JPEG. I didn't even think of that angle to it. Yeah. So you get around the whole issue of conscription versus mobilization or whatever anyway. Yeah. Yeah. No, everyone's jumping in and saying the same thing. Yep. Wow. So I'm just seeing what you guys are throwing in here. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Elise is saying, these Russians are not happy. And another thing, I didn't even get to this, but another thing they were mentioning is that the Russians are clearly planning on drafting a lot of the Ukrainians, because once it becomes Russian land, all the Ukrainians there will be eligible for the draft. Certainly men 18 to 28 or 27, whatever it is. So they're going to draft a lot of the Ukrainians. Now, I don't know what the Russians think they're getting out of it, because again, you really don't want to give a Ukrainian a gun, but some of the thought was the Russians using these guys as literally cannon fodder, like putting them in the way, somehow putting them in the way of Ukrainian troops. Actually use them as human shields, right? Start putting Ukrainian troops in all the Russian military headquarters, in all the Russian armament storage, all that kind of stuff, right? Possibly. I could see, and knowing the Russians, they're happy to go after a nuclear plant. They'd be happy to do that. I did see that Zelensky said any Russians who surrender will be given Geneva Convention rights. They won't say who surrendered, and they don't have to go back to Russia if they don't want to. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Let me look for another TikTok. October 1st, TVN 24 pipeline opens from Denmark to Poland, natural gas to Poland. Okay. That's another example, though. That's exactly it. So that's another thing, going back to what Daniel said, of this being potentially Russia blew up the pipeline in order to send a message to all these other pipelines that, I could go after you too, right? Hang on a second. I know my burp. Oops. Hip. That's okay. Using there we go. I knew that wasn't as clean. Sorry. I'm cleaning my keyboard, not my keyboard, my computer. I had a sense the picture wasn't looking. That looks much better. To me, at least it does. Danielle, Yes, Danielle is weighing in again. Irish Prime Minister, you like I'm gonna pronounce that. Irish Prime Minister was very critical of Russia at the UN a few days back, called them rogue and called for action. Any chance the UN can remove them? I mean, okay, we've got to look into this. Hold on, let's just look into this as we're talking. Hang on, because we've got to see like what. I think it's got to be like some supermajority or something. Can Russia be removed from the let's see the UN or the Security Council? The General Assembly. Okay, Lawfare blog. Lawfare blog is a very good legal blog here in the States. It's run by the Ben Wittes, who's the guy who's been projecting those things on the side of the Russian embassy here in Washington. The General Assembly may expel a member from the United Nations, but a Security Council vote. Okay, the General Assembly may expel a member from the United Nations, but a Security Council vote to expel a member of the United Nations is required before the General Assembly can vote on it. That preliminary council vote requires the unanimous consent of its permanent members. Russia is a permanent member, and China might veto it as well, but Russia would veto its own expulsion. And I'm going to guess the same thing happening with the security. Let's see how the Security Council works. This is from the Washington International Diplomatic Academy. I'm going to hope that they're real. Let's see. Beep-a-deep-a-deep. There are other mechanisms. The UN Charter. This is going to be one of those articles that doesn't really get to the point. Well, right. There's the Soviet Union problem. Russia isn't a member, according to the Charter. It's Soviet Union. Okay, come on. There's another article in the UN Charter that deserves attention. It covers voting in the Security Council. It allows for decisions on procedural matters to be made by an affirmative vote by 9 members. There's 15 normally. By 9 members without making a distinction between the 5 permanent and 10 rotating members of the Security Council. In other words, it doesn't require the concurring votes of the permanent members, which is required on all other matters. Is it reasonable to argue that removing a permanent member is a procedural matter? Well, the Korean decisions also lack the concurring votes of the permanent members. Interesting. So, okay, I mean, basically, potentially, but you get into a whole thing that the U.S. may or may not want to get into. Also, does the U.S. want to get into a position where 9, thank you for that on TikTok, where, 9 developing countries who don't like us can kick us out of the Security Council, right? I would suspect that the U.S. wouldn't like the precedent. That would be my guess. How about the daily treat of nukes from Putin? I'm not sure what that is, Vincente. What does that mean? Oh, you mean just the threats again? Medvedev made more threats today, although his threats were interesting, actually. Medvedev, who used to be the Russian, was a prime minister, I think he used to be, and was considered a moderate and a liberal or whatever, and now is like woo-woo, like total Putin clone. He was quoted today saying that, like, warning us, but the warning was interesting. We can use our nuclear weapons, as we always said, if what did he say? If you use nukes first. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, that's fair enough. And or if our continued existence is threatened. Okay, and we always knew that. But arguing your continued existence is threatened because Ukraine, honestly, even Ukraine taking Belgorod, even if Ukraine went in and stole Russian land, that doesn't threaten Russia's existence. They could argue, well, it's the existence of Belgorod as part of Russia. Right? It just, so anyway, Medvedev made some comments today that were actually, if anything, he thought he was saber rattling. And if anything, I read it and went, that was just backing off. So, anyway. Oh, the Tesach or whatever. That's right. I forgot that's what you call the prime minister. I thought that was the person's name. That's right. That's the name you use for the prime minister, or I should say, that is prime minister, the name you use. It is prime minister in Irish, I believe, as I recall. Another question. I think it's a bad idea to block Russians fleeing to the EU Every military age man who flees is one less potential soldier for the Putin regime. That's a really interesting question. I mean, I was thinking about this again more today. Again, I'm curious what you all think, because I'm really divided on this. There's a part of me that's like, I have no sympathy for the Russians. Let them stay. There's a part of me also that says, I want the Russian military filled with a bunch of men who don't want to be there. That's the best thing ever for Ukraine, is for the Russian military to be filled with men who don't want to be there, because they're going to have bad morale, right? Crappy attitude. They're not going to fight well. They're probably going to, turn themselves in as soon as they can to the Ukrainians and lay down their arms. And if they do fight, they're just not going to fight very well. So, or they could even turn on their own officers. So that's a good thing. The other, putting aside the humanitarian concern and whether you think there's a valid humanitarian reason to let these Russian men cross the border and all that. Okay, maybe there is, fleeing the draft. Put aside the humanitarian. Is it in Ukraine's interest to let them leave? I mean, maybe letting all these guys leave also somehow undercuts things at home when all the Russians at home find out, because frankly, they're going to find out, I would think. I don't know. If you let the Russians move into Eastern Europe, Putin will claim that land. Well, that's true too. Although they're already there. There's also a lot of stories about Russians misbehaving in other countries in Europe that they moved to. I know Germans, I was reading one of you, I think, talking about Germany and on the Discord and saying about, the problem with Russians in Germany, and the last thing you need is more Russians, but I don't know. I have no sympathy, but at the same time, if there's no one to conscript, you can't conscript an army. Well, and there's a possibility too that, right, maybe it even hurts them more by not having these men to conscript. They could try to claim, that's right, they could try to claim that there's a strong population abroad, and therefore, we have so much population in these neighboring countries, we must defend and invade, which is what they're doing in Ukraine. Yeah, I'm with Elise on this. It'd be interesting to see a thoughtful discussion of a panel discussing the issue. And exactly, having the Baltics and Western Europe, and having the Baltics, Poland, like a bunch of the Georgia, Kazakhstan, like have a bunch of the neighbors that are directly affected weighing in as well on it. Oops, hang on. Ms. Betharoni. Honestly, I feel bad for everyday Russians. We can say they should overthrow their government, but it's like an abused person. It takes time for them to leave sometimes. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Daniel, Europe is going to be full of Ukrainian women and Russian men. Messed up. Well, and that's a possibility too. I was reading, I know what I was reading yesterday. Oh my, hold on a second. I'm going to pull up this tweet. I was reading this yesterday from a Ukrainian woman in Germany. Hang on here. Hang on here. It was last night, so hopefully I've got it handy here. But she was talking about this very question and what it's like being a Ukrainian abroad. Hang on. One second, guys. I want to find this. I mean, I can tell you what she said, but it's more poignant to kind of read it in her own words. Hold on. If I can't, I will give up and tell you. I'm going to try one more moment here. I do tweet a lot, it seems. I'm not going to find this. So basically what she was saying last night, she was saying that, I live in Germany and I tell my daughters when they go out not to wear anything Ukrainian because they will get harassed because when they do, they get harassed by Russian men in Germany who will just berate them. And call them all sorts of horrible names and berate them in public, the women. Which, it's one woman in Germany's perspective, but I read that and was like, oh my God, I don't know. Any Germans can weigh in. I know John needs a Twitter intervention. I know. I know. Serbs have been a real issue as well. I know. Well, and again, the Serbs are, thankful that Russia supported them in their nasty, sorry Serbs, but nasty actions against Kosovo. And the Serbs need to kind of break out of it because you're tying yourself to the wrong horse. Russia is going to lead you backward. Europe is going to lead you forward. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Alec is saying, do you think we'll see some form of black market for Russians who wish to leave the country to avoid getting drafted? Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, the black market will be in Russia, probably just to get them across the border. They'll be paying border guards in poorer countries, probably. So it could be Kazakhstan and some of those countries. They'll just pay the border guards to let them across. I would not be surprised. Yeah, no, anyway, interesting question, 7:00. Let me look for another question maybe here, and then we'll call it quits, and then I'll go over to the Discord. Hang on, guys. Let me look on TikTok. Why did the U.S. allow escaping Russians asylum? I don't know that the U.S. has. I don't think the U.S. has. The U.S., for example, you don't get asylum. I don't think fleeing the draft is not a reason for political asylum in the United States, I would argue, because you get political asylum when you have I forget the actual law, but it's something to the effect of a legitimate concern about your safety. That's a really poor explanation of what it is. And, it's one thing to say, well, now that I left and didn't go in the military and I'm in America and I'm coming to America, I have a legitimate concern for my safety because they're going to kill me. But you didn't have a legitimate concern for your safety in Russia. You were fine. Now, if you were somebody who is a prisoner of conscience kind of thing where you're like, no, I'm a pacifist, and you can prove you're a pacifist, you can prove that you were against this war from the beginning, then I would argue maybe you're a political refugee, right? And that there you could be seriously harmed if you went back. But to come here as an asylum, let me find the actual quote in U.S. asylum law. To come to America, it's very particular what it is. For example, a lot of Americans don't realize it. Like they think people will argue this with me, and I'm like, Also, on immigration, I am not as liberal as a lot of Democrats. I'm not like Republicans, but I'm not as liberal as a lot of Democrats. U.S. asylum law. For example, you can't just come to the U.S. for asylum because of economic reasons. That's not a reason for asylum. Lots of people all over the world want to improve. All of my family, everyone came to America to improve their lives economically, leaving poor countries. That's not a reason to go around the established system. So here we go. This has got to have it. Come on. Oh, it's not going to. I just want to find the freaking fact. I remember going to this page before, actually. Oh, affirmative asylum? Affirmative asylum? What the hell is that? Oh, dear God. Hold on. Who qualifies for asylum in the U.S.? Okay, here we go. To establish eligibility for asylum or refugee status under U.S. law, you must prove that you meet the definition of a refugee. In brief, this means showing that you are either the victim of past persecution or you have a well-founded fear of future persecution. Now, again, maybe you argue, well, I snuck my way into the United States. I snuck my way to the American border via Mexico. And if Putin finds out, boy, he's going to be pissed that I evaded the draft. Maybe, but a judge would have to decide that. But anyway, it has to be persecution, and it's not economics. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So, all right, guys, I'm going to call it quits on this. I will go to the Discord tonight, so join us there. Thank you for joining me. As always, I will remind folks, and I will at least do this for the week, if not forever, to help out if you can go to erevosis.com, which is my Linktree series of links that'll give you lots of different ways you can help. The Discord address is there. which is discord.aravosis.com. The store is there for getting t-shirts and things. My PayPal, my Venmo, all kinds of different things are there. You guys can help out. But to right now, I'm going to go over to the Discord. That's discord.aravosis.com. And join me over there. I'll hang out with you guys for a bit and hang out and talk. And voila, we will do that. So recap. Oh, you recap Nazis. You're so bad. I always forget the recap. And the recap, you're lucky. I looked over at TikTok really quick. I looked over at TikTok and I saw recap by Netlin and I was like, shit. I'll do a quick recap and then we're going to Discord. Hold on. I started with the video of NASA hitting an asteroid, which was a good first test of whether we can deter an asteroid, or I should say defer, not even defer. What's the word I'm looking for? Hit an asteroid that's coming to destroy Earth and move it out of its trajectory. Thank you for the jewelry on TikTok. Xi Jinping in China, the Chinese leader, made an appearance today, suggesting that maybe there wasn't a coup. There's a major hurricane heading for Florida, probably hitting tomorrow afternoon. Nord Stream pipeline sabotaged. Yes, 2 pipelines were sabotaged. Gas pipelines from Russia heading into Europe this morning. Nobody knows who did it. The results of the sham election in Ukraine are coming in, where Russia pretty much Russia stole the entire election, claiming 97-98% of people voted to join Russia, and Russia later this week will likely annex Ukraine or begin the process. Secretary Blinken, United States Secretary of State, said today that Ukraine can use U.S. weapons to take back its own territory, which is great. I did a lot of updates on the Russian mobilization, including the fact that lots of Russians have already fled the country or are lined up at borders, Kazakhstan, Georgia, European Union. Russian media is trying to blame local officials, local recruitment offices for violating Putin and Shoigu, the defense minister's promise that you would not get drafted unless you previously served in the military, unless you were not a student, unless you were a certain young age. They've been drafting old people too, and that you had to meet the health requirements, and they've not been. They've been drafting people who literally are unhealthy, that would not make the health requirements. Lots of trouble going on still in Russia with lots of protests, attacks with fire, probably Molotov cocktails against enlistment centers, protests, police fired warning shots, all sorts of protests going on. And then finally, we finished talking. Thank you for that on TikTok. I hadn't quite seen the skateboard before with the dog. We talked about the Iranian drones that Russia got and how it's been a problem for Ukraine because it's not clear to them necessarily how to stop them. But there is a report out of Ukraine that the Ukrainians blew up a command and control facility for the Iranian drones in Ukraine run by the Russians, and they killed several dozen Russians and Iranian trainers, allegedly, which would be huge news if it's true. All right, guys, let's go to the Discord, discord.aravosis.com. And as Rob is saying as well, consider doing a Patreon. Consider starting a Patreon account for helping your channel. Well, what we've got is I've already got the Patreon set up, and the Patreon is linked to our Discord. So there is a Patreon, but it's linked to the Discord. So I thought it'd be confusing if I just do a separate Patreon that isn't linked to the Discord. So that's the way to do it. You can you could just go to Patreon and subscribe if you don't care about the Discord. You know what? Let me pull that. That's an interesting point. I'll pull it up because I never thought of pitching it to people that way. But if you want to just do the Patreon, hang on, and just as a way of helping to finance me, that would be lovely. Here you go. It's not a terrible idea, Rob. You're right. I hadn't thought of that. Because for people who aren't interested in Discord, which is this community where we all can chat with each other after hours, if you're really not interested, you can just go to Patreon and subscribe to one of the categories anyway, become a member. And if you become interested, we can explain to you how to tie that to your, we can explain to you how to tie that to your your Discord if you want to try Discord as well. So thank you for that. Okay, TikTokers, all the rest of you, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodnight and head over to Discord. So see you guys over there. And then I'm going to wait a couple seconds for TikTok to catch up. There it is. Bye. Bye, guys. See you at Discord.